Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Snap Material. It is April 3rd, 2024. We are about to embark on our coverage of our experience with Avengers versus X-Men, the season that dropped in March of 2024, getting you ready for what is happening in April with the Thunderbolts. That's right. Thunderbolts just dropped as of yesterday, the new season. Evan Bevins and I are going to be discussing what cards we unlocked, what kind of funny situations or happenings did we see this past month that we had the chance to observe. We also are going to have our battle, which is going to be chaos versus order. And of course, we are going to be talking our top five. That's right. Top five villains. Top five villain cards. We'll get into all that here. But first off, Evan Bevins, welcome back. It's April, man. Are you ready to talk?
It is April. No fooling.
No fooling. No fooling. We're going to be talking some Avengers versus X-Men. We had the chance to go through that last season. We gave everybody our preview. Now we're going to talk about our review of the season. I guess we'll start off with the cards that were featured in the last season. And first off was Hope Summers.
That's what I was hoping you'd say.
Oh, there it is. There it is. Hope Summers, 3 cost, 4 power. After you play a card here, you get +1 energy next turn. What were your thoughts here, man? You got the season last season.
Yeah, I did. I thought she was pretty good. And I think I mentioned this a little the last time because I had gotten to play with her a couple times. But at first I had an idea like, I could build this around her. And what I found more and more often was I was putting her into decks that already had like Living Iron Slot to give me a chance to get some extra energy to get those vital cards out there a little sooner. Same with put her in what I can't remember if I mentioned this last time, my Engines of Destruction deck, which is Galactus, Destroyer, and Nimrod. So those are all high cost cards. The earlier you get them out there, the better. Yeah, she really can work in just about anywhere. She gives you more boosts than Psylocke, but it's kind of like that. She can just fill in and be a boost for you anyway, even if it's not like a specifically tailored deck for Hope.
Okay, very versatile card. That's what I saw when I was playing against her because I didn't get her. I think I might have ended up with her. I think today it was funny. I think turn 3 I used Scarlet Witch to change the location. Hope Summers was already down there, and it changed it to Oscorp and flipped Hope Summers onto my side, which was very useful. I did get to use her a couple times, and yeah, man, I definitely the whole Kitty Pryde thing. I watched that happen, and you could also like if you laid down 2 cards, you got 2 energy, right?
Yeah,
yeah. It's again, man, that's a card that clearly has a lot of uses.
Yeah. I mean, I put her in all kinds of different. I don't know if I put her in Savage Sword of Shulkanaut. We'll talk later. I put just about everything in Savage Sword of Shulkanaut at some point. But I know I tried her with a variation on my Surfer deck. The other theme you'll see is I tried a lot of different decks and not much traction.
Yeah.
But yeah. I know the one I wanted to use her with was Havoc. But then I thought, well, okay, unless you use Kitty Pryde, you're not offsetting that every time. But I did have a pretty decent, when they had the X-Men and Avengers theme week where you got bonuses for using them, she helped make for a pretty good X-Men team.
Oh, okay.
With her and Havoc, and it was mostly kind of lower powered. I'm trying to remember who I've got an image of it somewhere, but I didn't set the world on fire or anything. But I know I had her and Havoc, and I want to say Bishop and Professor X. It was kind of low power, but to start out with, but with the potential to build up.
Okay, that's pretty sweet. All right, well, let's get into...
And the X-Men were definitely the better bonus there, I think.
For sure. All right, well, next card is Pixie, 2 cost, 1 power card, and she was released along with Hope Summers. Or you were able to get her that first week. On reveal, shuffle the costs of all cards in your deck that started there. And again, I think when we were recorded last time, Pixie had been out for maybe a week and maybe a little bit less. Yeah. I didn't see nothing made me go, oh no, not Pixie again. I never ran into a situation like that. Didn't find her as a game breaker, and I think I saw her a handful of times. Yeah, nothing that made me go, whoa, wait a second.
Yeah,
How about you?
I saw people using her, but at no point did I go like, oh man, Pixie got me that game. Maybe
Yeah.
she did, and I didn't know it. It's hard to see the effects when she's not in your hand, or maybe I'm just not observant enough. Both things are possible. She's the one I used 2 spotlight keys. I really wanted to get her, and I ended up regretting that later in the season. I did not get her, but it's definitely a cool concept. And without using her, I won't in any way suggest that she's in the Kang tier. But that's kind of what it reminded me of. It's like, oh, that seems like a really cool thing to have happen, but I don't know if it. I just love Kang's anime. Even when people use Kang on me, I'm like that's so cool, and then I'm like, hey, it still did make an impact on the game. But that was the one. Every time a new spotlight cache came up, I'm like, oh, why did I? And it wasn't even necessarily for Pixie. It was just I discussed this last time too, but I got the Chibi Mobius and the cool Spider-Ham variant, but I already have a cool Spider-Ham variant. Not only did I miss out on a card that was probably out of the 5 cards that debuted this season, number 5. In my estimation, and that's not because I don't know if it's bad. It still looks like a fun card, but the others are just so much better.
Yeah.
It's like, well, not only did I go after that and get one card that just does nothing for me, and another card that is as cool as the ones I have, but if I had gotten Pixie, I'm still not sure how great it would have been.
Yeah.
Which has me hesitating on what my next spotlight key is going to.
Right. Well, after that, we've got Mockingbird, a 5-cost, 9-power card. Costs 1 less for each card you have in play that didn't start in your deck. Did you see anything with this card?
I saw her quite a few times, and I did manage to get I missed her the first time. I managed to get a second spotlight key right before it changed, and I got her, and I threw her in a bunch of decks, and then kind of moved on. Not because she didn't work. No, not. It's not a living tribunal situation. Although he has more than earned his keep. It just took a little adjustment. No, she's a good card. Yeah. It took me a while to identify all the ways that you could activate her, because the Brood was something I thought of, and Sinister, but then also Squirrel Girl.
Yeah.
Always looking for a reason to have Squirrel Girl in there, and then eventually it occurred to me, well, hammers don't start in your deck either. I revisited my title of MCU Hammer and put her in a deck with Beta Ray Bill and Thor. That gives you some pretty powerful cards for a relatively lower cost. You put Squirrel Girl out there, and she's suddenly a 3-cost, 9-power card. I tried to balance it out a little more. I think, let me see, in one of the decks I put Patriot in there because a lot of those extra cards that lower her cost then can get the boost from Patriot.
Right.
That's I'm jumping ahead, but as far as trends, there was a while there, and I think maybe it coincided with Mockingbird that I was seeing a lot more Patriot and using a lot more Patriot. I know I worked her in there because I always, as much fun as it is to go all in on one theme or whatever, a lot of times I like to try to figure out a way to have like two in there, or kind of two paths. Not only to have extra cards to get Mockingbird out there, which isn't enough to build a whole deck around anyway, but then also have Patriot in there. You're not relying so much on one card. Yeah.
I ran into her a good bit, and she caused me some problems. I can say that what really works to her advantage is, number one, you could get her out there, especially if you've got Thanos sitting back there hanging out, getting all the Infinity Stones, getting all those Infinity Stones in your deck and then putting them in play. But the multiple cards, like the Squirrel Girl, those types of Brood, those types of cards right there, I would sit there and I would see Mockingbird get dropped, and there's nothing I could do at that point. I could not Shang-Chi her. Yeah. She did give me some problems, and she seems like another card that makes me think, okay, well, she's got some use. I'm surprised that you moved on. I guess I assume that you got her in there. She did what she was supposed to do, and you're like, okay, I've got to try. I got to see if there's something else.
I didn't move on because she didn't work, but I just, like I said, I wasn't having much luck with anything very consistently. So I was just trying different types of decks. It wasn't like Mockingbird's not doing it for me. It was just I used her a ton, and then I moved on to some other strategies we'll talk about. Okay. I sent you. I should have had that when I was talking about it, but I sent you my deck that I kind of settled on with her, which was kind of like my deck that I call Boosters Gold with Patriot and Blue Marvel, and where I'm trying to fill everything up with Ultron, but Ultron and Blue Marvel and Kazar out, and put in Thor, Beta Ray Bill, and Jane Foster. I've got extras like Squirrel Girls, Squirrels, and the Mr. Sinister clone in there for Patriot to boost and to lower Mockingbird's cost, and then hopefully get some hammers in there that can lower it even more. And then I've got the potential, even without doubling them up, for like a 10 power, 12 power, 9 power, and 2 8 powers with Gladiator and Jane Foster without any 6 cost cards.
Wow.
Boost it up even a little more with Forge and Dazzler and also Bloodstone.
Right. So, man, oh man.
Maybe I should have tried that one a little more. I don't know. I rose up really fast and then seemed to hit a buzzsaw.
Right. Yeah, I hear you. Well, next card is the card that I was waiting for this season. It was this one and the next one, and that's going to be Cannonball. 5 cost, 8 power card. On reveal, move the highest power enemy card here away. If you can't, destroy it with a rock. I think my original comments was something along the lines of like trying to fill the other side, which was definitely a strategy I used after getting Cannonball. But then it was sometime after that I was like, oh, you know what? If there's no way to move anything over to a lane, then this thing has to get destroyed. Mm-hmm. This card gets destroyed. Yes, Professor Xavier and Cannonball are actually, you can probably find a few comics with them in it.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, pretty easy to associate the two. And yes, they won me a lot of games. And well, actually, you know what? I shouldn't say that. They won me a lot of cubes, because what ended up happening is I was smart enough to retreat when I knew it wasn't going to work out, which usually would only cost me 1. But when I knew I was going to win, I knew I was going to win. Like there was a 98% chance I was winning with the combo of Cannonball and Professor X. If I got it to work right and I knew what I was doing, aside from Jeff showing up and ruining the party, which he never ruins the party. Come on.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, that's the most comic and accurate thing we've ever discussed on here.
It helped me skyrocket. That's an appropriate term to use talking about Cannonball. I was
vulnerable when he's in his blasting field. Or
yes,
something
sir.
Like he's one of those that has this automatic description of his powers. Although I guess it's not that automatic because I can't seem to recall it. I'm just waiting for a couple years from now when they release the various other mutant powered Guthrie kids, and you get bonuses for all of them being together.
Sweet. There's he had a sister, didn't he?
Yeah, Husk.
Okay, all right.
But he also had a brother and another sister who, let's see, the brother had wings and got killed by the Friends of Humanity, I think, or the Church of Humanity. And then he went by Icarus, and then he had a sister, another sister, I cannot remember her name, but she got depowered on M-Day, and then I know you haven't been reading the X-Men stuff regularly, but did Christian or anybody ever tell you about the Crucible?
I've heard things. I don't know if I know everything.
She was the first one to go through the Crucible. I'd never even heard of her, but I'll never forget her after that. That was one of the more controversial things in the new era that worked, at least from a storytelling perspective.
Is that the thing where like it's not about getting your powers back.
If you've been, they can resurrect mutants, but if the mutant's alive and just doesn't have powers, they didn't want him to commit suicide. They had to face Apocalypse in ritual combat and legitimately fight for their lives. And then if he killed them, they could be brought back with their powers.
Okay. All right.
And it got even weirder from there. And Nightcrawler was the only one who was like, guys, this is messed up.
Good. I'm glad Nightcrawler spoke up. My gosh. Well, all right. Tell me about Cannonball on your end.
I saw him a few times. I think I took one shot with the spotlight key, but didn't get him. Yeah, I had him mess me up a few times, but I also, my favorite interaction with him, I think, was the very first time I encountered him, or I know it was the week that he was released. I was playing, and I had a variation on that deck with Patriot, the Boosters Gold with Patriot and Blue Marvel, and I had swapped Mr. Sinister in there at some point. It was one where I got Subterraneous. I had a lot of rocks, but since I had Patriot and Blue Marvel, those rocks were even worth 3 points on the Danger Room. The guy played nothing on there. I had Mr. Sinister Clone, and 2 rocks. Would have been 14 points. I was up 14-0 on that. And the guy plays Cannonball. Mm-hmm. And destroyed the 5-point Sinister Clone and replaced it with a rock, which was worth 3 points, and then the Danger Room destroyed Cannonball.
I was waiting for that.
I won it 12-0. I would have won it 12-8 anyway, but then the Danger Room even destroyed Cannonball.
Oh, that's funny.
So yeah, now there were other times where Cannonball messed me up, or at least didn't lose his player of the game. My first instance was Cannonball flew into the side of a mountain and got blasted by a laser.
That's great. All right. Well, next up, War Machine. 4 cost, 6 power. On reveal until the end of the next turn, nothing can stop you from playing cards anywhere. This was a card that I had my eye on, and I really, really, really was tempted to try and get. And as the days wound down on the season, I was like, I don't know if I want to spend the money to get this. I didn't want to spend the spotlight keys to try and get it. As useful as I thought it was, as much of an answer to my whole Cannonball Professor X combo, I thought that it was. I didn't pull the trigger. Now, I did face War Machine a few times, and clearly, as soon as I saw the 3 target lanes pop up there, I was like, okay, well, this is not going to go well for me, and I immediately retreated. I was like, I'm done here, because Professor X is not going to win that lane. As much as I wanted to get the card, I didn't do it because I was like, I'm going to save my stuff so I could see what's going to happen next season. I didn't want to take the chance of losing some of those keys. What'd you run into there with War Machine?
Well, yeah, I was a little gun shy with my spotlight keys too. I did take a shot at him early on, and I got Hercules. No, you know what? Hercules was not in the spotlight cache. He was just the random card I got.
Oh, okay.
I forget who was in the spotlight cache with War Machine, but I got Hercules, and that's one reason I moved away from Mockingbird, because I started messing around with move decks again. Mm-hmm. Trying out some new move decks. Hercules was a lot of fun, but then I started thinking, I'm like, well, I might be able to make it. War Machine looks pretty cool, be pretty fun. And on Monday, when they debuted that new Pixel album, I had 5 of them, or I had 6 of them already. I immediately got 2,000 credits dropped in, and that let me rocket up to that other spotlight key. And we'll talk about the cards coming up for this season. I was still thinking, I'm like, maybe I should just wait on War Machine, because I don't know if I'll get him. And I'm building up tokens. I could probably buy him next season with tokens. And I'm like, I'll give it a shot. Yeah, because Silk was one of them. And then I forget who the other one was. Like, I don't think I had the other one, but the Silk variant looked pretty cool. And I'm like, well, worst case scenario, I get a cool looking Silk variant. And I got War Machine, with less than 24 hours left in the season.
Nice.
I immediately started, I'll send you the deck I built with him. I immediately started using a lot of those, although I felt like an idiot when I messaged a buddy of mine. And he said, yeah, War Machine will be really useful when people start using Professor X a lot again. And I'm like, why didn't I put Professor X in that deck? Yeah, it's just a deck of people who shut down lanes or make them difficult to, or can move between them. Gave me an excuse to bring back M'Baku. Got Ebony Maw. And then put Ravana in there just to help get Professor X out earlier, and finally had a use for Sandman.
Yes, I wanted to see that combo.
Yeah, and now I did try Sandman and Electro, but that just got kind of redundant. And I replaced Electro with Magic because, Sandman you're going to bring in later, and as much fun as War Machine is, I had to remind myself he only does that for one turn.
Right.
I replaced Electra with Magic. She could give me a 7th turn, so you play Sandman on 5, War Machine on 6, and then whoever you want to on 7. It is fun to drop Infinite. Sometimes you can. A couple times I've won by playing Infinite and Ebony Maw on turn 7 and dropping one of them in behind Professor X.
Infinity Heist.
Yeah. Yeah, well, complicated means of getting in places you're not supposed to be.
I love it. Love it.
And then the other one, at some point, I decided to throw him into my Savage Sword of Shulkanot deck, because you've got Infinite, and then another one that I didn't consider until somebody used it against me with War Machine is Giganto. You could play Giganto anywhere you want to. There I was, already had a deck with Giganto and Infinite. I decided to remove my Killmonger and Shang-Chi insurance by taking Kyra out of there and putting War Machine in. That's pretty fun. Now, what I want to do with that, and why I'm kind of hesitating on my Spotlight key this week that I'm getting close to getting, is I'd like to probably replace Ravana or Goose in that deck with Jeff, because there have been a few times where like, oh man, I could really use Jeff to let me get in somewhere a little earlier than turn 7.
True.
Jeff's coming up in a Spotlight cache next week, I think.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Along with a featured card that I like. I definitely want to have a couple keys for that week.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about locations. Location. Krakoa. Your first play here adds its power to the top of your deck. And I'll go ahead and start here. My Cannonball deck that I created, I have Doc Ock as definitely a featured player in that thing.
Mm-hmm. That'll fill up a location for you quick. Yes,
it will. He helped out quite a bit, but what I didn't realize is playing Doc Ock on Krakoa. I just did this, I think, a couple days ago. This really wasn't during the featured time Krakoa was out, because I don't think Cannonball had been released yet. At least I don't think. I could be wrong, but anyway, I laid out Doc Ock, and the next card that I draw is Hobgoblin. I got a 2-power Hobgoblin. I was like, nope, can't use that. I remember developing a deck that had Typhoid Mary in there, and I was given like 14 points to Silk the next turn. It was pretty crazy. It was a fun, let's just put it this way. It was a fun location. I actually liked it. I definitely loved it being featured and being able to kind of count on it being there, because then you could develop a deck around it and actually have a pretty good run on some of the stuff if you were playing your cards right. I had a good time with it. It did what it said it was going to do. And I probably did Legion it a couple times, but I don't think I found myself going, oh my goodness, this is the greatest thing ever with Legion, because my opponent could do the same thing. Yeah. But how about you?
I didn't make a deck specifically for it. I think when it was featured, I went back to Living Iron Slot, since I had some higher power cards in there anyway. Or maybe that was when I was using the Hammers and Mockingbird deck. But I still see it every once in a while, and it's something I always take notice of. Like, I usually, if I don't have a low-cost, high-power card, I usually try to hold off on it for a while to make it count. It's definitely one that I take note of whenever I see it.
Okay. All right, next up after that is Utopia. 3 and 4 cost cards cost 1 less. My intention was to Legion the heck out of this and then drop Mobius. And I chased that combo all day and all night. It seemed like I could never land it to actually make it matter for some reason.
It's just your dream, like a jet ski you never get to ride.
Poor Mobius.
Wow.
3 and 4. Listen, dude, when I was sitting there and I would rock Legion, I'd actually get the combo. I think I sent you a message. It's like, I've been trying to get this stupid combo forever and a day, and I finally got it. But man, it was nice because it dropped all those 3 and 4 cost cards by 1 and 3 locations. And man, oh man, it could rock your world, and you could fill up a lane. You could fill up all the lanes if you wanted. But anyway, how about you?
I think I tried my Surfer deck when that was featured, or I did a different one with some other the good 3 cost cards I've gotten since then. But it's useful when it comes up, but I don't ever remember it like making a difference. But I'll always take -1 cost on any of them. So
yeah, for sure. All right. Well, there it is, ladies and gentlemen. That is our discussion of April's Marvel Snap season, Avengers versus X-Men. Thanks a lot for joining us. Make sure to tune in tomorrow for the next installment of Snap Material.